Looks like it looks like you sussy bakas want to do Mr. Beast first. So yeah, let's do Mr. Beast. This is another video from the Cavernacle. You know how it is, guys. When it rains, it pours. We watched another video of his. Pretty well done. I've watched a couple. Pretty cool stuff. I enjoy the guy. Almost at 100K. God bless. I guess I should subscribe to him at this point, huh? Anyway, it's called Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, and the Insane Conversation. Conservative war against Mr. Beast. I know it's going to be about that Chris and the trans thing, and I know that happened like 4 days ago, guys. So it's not really in the cycle, but I'm still curious about it. I intentionally didn't watch their videos about it because I was like, okay, like this is ridiculous. Sonny V2's video was insane. It made it seem like Chris wasn't a real person, and like at one point was just like, oh, this is like it's basically said that. Alluded to the idea that Chris was just transitioning, that like adding in a woke character in some kind of a movie, and I was just like, what? Chris is a person that is trans. It's not that deep. Like, if you don't want to like it, that's fine. But to like, you're pushing a conspiracy theory that Chris just decided to transition so that they could get more views as some kind of inclusivity project is wild. Because the first thing I would have done if I wanted to be inclusive, I'd have a black guy. Are there any black guys in Mr. Beast? I don't care if he adds one. I don't really, that's not my point. My point is that's a little easier than, by your logic, Sonny V2, creating fake trans people. This just doesn't even make any sense. That shit is wild. So yeah, let's do this, dude. Let's do it.
Mr. Beast is caught between a rock and a hard place because his friend, a person he has cast on the show,
I
and who
forgot how fast this dude talks.
now making presumably millions of dollars because he's friends with Mr. Beast and was a cast member of the show, has decided to completely change his character. Now he's no longer
cast member. Oh, it's like we're going to Disney, baby.
It's a dude bro who's with him on the show. Now he is a man who pretends that he's a woman. By the way, this actually has real ramifications for the way that the show feels,
oh, God.
the show looks. And they
Are you a big Mr. Beast fan, Ben? Are you saying that this feels really awkward for you? This feels really bizarre? Huh? This feels really weird. What's going on, Tipster? No, I didn't see the Melanie Mac video where she said Chris got paid to transition. That's wild. Maybe I'll check that out. But Ben, are you an active fan of Mr. Beast? I personally am waiting for the DLC pack where we release the new Mr. Beast. That'll be a lot of fun.
There's a recent video from Mr. Beast in which this dude, Chris Tyson, who believes that he is a woman,
this dude. I think that Chris is just like gender fluid or something. No. I didn't think that they thought that they were a woman. Maybe they are. But you do notice that when Ben talks about trans people, he intentionally like will use more non-affirming pronouns. Like he wants you to make sure that that he does not think that that trans people are valid. It's pretty interesting. It's an interesting phenomenon.
All the interactions that used to be kind of normal are now extremely, extremely awkward. Okay, but Mr. Beast is stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Hello everyone from the capitalist hellhole of the United Kingdom. Small tangent quick. I came back from Spain a year ago. I lived in Spain for a bit. You guys know that. And of course, it's my first video back after traveling Asia for 7 months. Last April, when I got back from Spain, I got COVID straight away. Damn. And now this April, I haven't even been back that long. I've got COVID again. And very depressing because I just got, a bit more acclimatized.
I feel that because I got COVID recently too. It knocked me up for a little bit. I got pregnant with a baby. No, but it really messed me up. I hate getting COVID. It knocked me out a little bit.
To the UK, and now I'm going to be stuck in my room for a week.
Damn.
I'm feeling pretty terrible, but I'm going to take the chance to work now in case I get far worse. If you guys are wondering why I will even make this video in the first place, but yes, not looking too hot, so I'm just going to wear my hood up because it's comforting, and we'll see how we go with this video. Making content through COVID last time wasn't great, and I have to make videos now. I've had like a week off. I haven't made videos in 3 weeks, but today we are talking about something I like to talk about, and that is criticism of Mr. Beast. But wait.
Mr. Beast?
I don't like this criticism of Mr. Beast because there is now a full-on conservative culture war against Mr.
How many criticisms of Mr. Beast do you run with, bro? Come on. You can't be doing my doggy like that. Everybody hates Mr. Beast because he does charity. It's so silly goosery.
Beast because one of Mr. Beast's co-hosts, Chris, has been on HRT and they are transitioning. Ooh. And lots of people are very, very mad about that because Mr. Beast did stand up for their trans friend. Now, I've seen a lot of left-wing YouTubers really celebrate Mr. Beast doing that. And I'll give credit where it's due that he is good for sticking by his friend. But I do also in this video want to talk about the limits of Mr. Beast being like the supposed moral and good person through his amazing charity work, and how his audience who aspire to be like him are now reacting when he does something pretty objectively moral. He stands by his friend in the face of loads of criticism just for them being trans.
Listen, don't dunk on Mr. Beast, please.
And being who they are. But of course, I do want to talk about this insane right-wing reaction to Mr. Beast, and also how
Matt Walsh got completely demonetized. That's wild. Well, he is just constantly hate farming as much as possible, so
they don't care about Mr. Beast. They're just using Mr. Beast as another culture war issue.
Hey, what's up?
And they literally have the same talking points, which are pretty ridiculous. So we're going to be talking about Matt Walsh and Ben Shapiro today.
Matt Walsh and Ben Shapiro.
They care about Mr. Beast. And you guys know, I'm the OG Mr. Beast hater. When I started criticizing Mr. Beast like 3 years ago, no one else was criticizing him. And if I am saying criticism leveled at him,
that's a weird brag, bro. Why do people hate Mr. Beast so much? I think that he's just a nice young man. Okay, doing nice things in a broken capitalist world. Okay, why is everybody so mean about this guy? How the fuck do I get out of this fucking area? This is pissing me off, by the way.
Is completely ridiculous. Then you just know I'm an authority.
Get me out of here.
Criticism. You know it's ridiculous, and of course it's just motivated by lots of bigotry. But I wouldn't go as far in saying that Mr. Beast is some great like trans ally, because he's still like some Elon Musk simp, the same guy.
Who cares? Listen, you don't have to be a fucking trans ally. Okay, normal people aren't trans allies. I think everybody should be a trans ally, but I don't think Mr. Beast has to be a political figure, especially since, like, listen, in the political sphere or in the content sphere, it's hard to be political. And I think it's fine to not be political. We're at a point now where, like, it's not acceptable for some reason socially to be like, oh, I don't really want to get involved in politics. Back in the day, it used to be a taboo and nobody talked about. Nowadays, you can't say it like, no, I just don't want to talk about politics, which I think is perfectly reasonable. Or you're chastised as if you're a Nazi if you're like, oh, I'm like apolitical. All right, it's crazy. I could be fucking demisexual and that's fine. But if my sexuality is apolitical, all of a sudden, you get the execution sentence. It's like, dude, people don't have to be involved in politics. Like, it's not interesting to everybody. Mr. Beast is just a person with a friend. He doesn't have to be an activist for trans people as well. Like, it's not that big of a deal. You should be, but like, it's not a moral bad to not be. It's just like a neutral thing. Not everybody wants to spend all their time doing this stuff. It's not fun. Like, it can be very draining and obnoxious. He's just trying to make content about, I don't know, hanging out in candy stores and not eating for a month. I could never do that. Couldn't even go a day. Almost died.
Who's basically removed any terms of service restrictions against dead naming trans people, and Mr. Beast is tweeting about Elon Musk like literally today. So we're going to talk about all of that in the video, but before we go any further, please like the video. Tell me in the comments what you think about all of this. Also, the orange pyramid thing is back. This is only for 75k subscribers. I'm of course nearly on 100k. I promise when we get to 100k, I will rebuild the pyramid. Obviously, you can't even leave the house at the moment because I have COVID, but that is coming back. Help me get to 100k. We're so close. Under 2k until we get there will be such an amazing milestone. If you're someone who just lurks and watches my channel because it pops up and you're recommended, consider subscribing. Also, follow me on social media at The Cavernacle, on Twitter, on Instagram. Instagram is where I posted about all my travels around Southeast Asia. That is all in the highlight reels. If you care about what I've been up to over the last 7 months, I recommend...
Is being an ally political or just the right thing to do? I guess being an ally isn't necessarily political. You're just like, oh, I support trans people. I guess an activist would be... But I could still understand him not taking like a firm stance. Social media is very toxic when it comes to differencing in opinions, whether they're conservative or progressive. Everybody's a psychopath. So
checking out my Japan stuff, I did document it very thoroughly, and also consider becoming a patron. I'm trying to build up as many one patrons as possible. And the benefits of being a patron, again, access to the private patrons Discord server and my Nintendo Switch friend code. Also, check out my second channel and check out the subreddit. The links to everything are down in the description. So before we start talking about everything this drama, I think it's important to know, because I know people might pick me up on this thinking I am misgendering Chris. As far as I know, Chris goes by any pronouns. It says on Chris's own Twitter page. Mr. Beast called Chris he, so I'm guessing that at this stage of their transition, they are okay with any of these pronouns. Like I said, through my research, I haven't seen anything else about Chris that suggests that they want to be, referred to as she, perhaps. So I'm just going off what their close friend Mr. Beast calls them. So you guys will know I have absolutely no love for Mr. Beast. I hate his content.
Do you think that that's a weird question. Listen, it's an intrusive thought. But do you think that I can't even do it? I can't make the joke. Do you think that Chris is going to make an OnlyFans? Because I'd be curious. I'd be a little curious. It's weird to say that and then use a picture that says Kids' Choice on it. It's kind of awkward. I don't think there's any way I can move on from this other than just pretending that this never happened.
I think his content is actually very damaging, and I actually think his content is bad for children.
What? Why?
I hate what their content. I think his content is actually very damaging.
Why?
I think his content is bad for children.
Why?
I just don't think it's bad for children because there's a transgender person in these videos. Now, my problem with Mr. Beast is that he says he wants to inspire children, and he wants to inspire children by doing acts of charity and acts of good. And I've made whole videos talking about how he's not really going to inspire anyone with these videos because what are you inspiring? You're inspiring a worldview where solving systemic issues is all about individual acts of charity.
I think it's not that deep. I agree. That's why I don't like the anti-Mr. Beast discourse. It's so weird. I agree that like we have systemic issues that charity is simply not going to solve. That is a fact. Okay, we need to get. Ideally, I wish we lived in a world where we didn't need any charity, right? But we do, and so I think to like a very intelligent, terminally online person. When you look at something like what Mr. Beast is doing, you go like, oh, I notice a bad because we shouldn't need charity. But I don't think it's teaching kids that like we don't need to change the system. I think it's just teaching kids to be nice. And that's it. I don't think it's that deep. I don't think that these kids are extracting these incredibly deep messages that Mr. Beast isn't even putting out there. I think that they just see a cool dude doing nice things with money. And I think we'd all love to do that. If I had a bunch of money, I would go and like the first thing I want to do, I know it sounds silly, is like take my aunt and my cousin, my Aunt Kathy, to like Disney, like a really nice vacation and help her out because my uncle, God bless him, passed away. He was like a father to me. And I would like to try to return the favor in some capacity. Is that a good thing to do with money? No, it's a fucking waste of money. Who gives? They shouldn't really. But at the end of the day, it's like, what's what we want to do, bro? I want to do nice things. We want to be able to use money. So, like, I don't think Mr. Beast is saying capitalism is the best. I think Mr. Beast is just capitalisming problems. But he's not creating this problem. I don't think anybody in the Senate is going to be like, well, I don't think that we should deal with this problem with poor people because Mr. Beast. You know, I don't think that's happening. I think that's a little too... it's not that deep.
Now, of course, Chris is just a co-host. Chris goes along with these videos. I guess I've criticized Chris in the past by extension, by criticizing Mr. Beast videos that Chris has featured in. Remember that video where that guy won a game show, and then for some reason, Chris and Mr. Beast like showed this guy's like living standards, showed this guy's like kind of old car and apparently bad living conditions just to make both of themselves look better.
Technically, anybody could use $1 million, but it's clear that this is really going to change your life and help you out in a positive way. And I'm glad we can do that for you, man.
So in that sense, I've got no...
Mr. Beast, be a little more sensitive. The end.
For Chris in that way, but upon researching Chris's Twitter, they seem like fairly based, I guess, considering they're like besties with Mr. Beast. But anyway, Mr. Chris on both their accounts has been talking a lot about transitioning, mainly just replying to trans folks. So someone saying, bro, what the F happened, posting a picture of Chris before taking HRT, and Chris says, HRT, and it's only been 2 months. Another trans user on Twitter saying, not to out Chris from Mr. Beast, but are they trans? I remember they made a helicopter joke years ago, and it really put me off the whole group. I guess it comes full circle. Chris saying, just a heads up.
That is true. Helicopter blades do go full circle.
Someone finding themselves does not always mean they are now X identity. However, this is a great time to say trans rights are human rights. Let people exist and be happy. And if this makes you mad, enjoy being on the wrong side of history looking back. So Chris has a child and recently divorced from their partner. Someone saying on a Keemstar tweet, there goes a father figure. The kid won't ever be able to look up to him, and write some weird fascist thing about...
I mean, I guess. I mean, I think that kids need masculine and feminine figures. But like at the end of the day, this person is just going to be a happier parent. I would rather a feminine happy parent than a non... I mean, I don't care. But they just, you know, it's good for... If you have like an issue with some kind of gender dysphoria, you transitioning is going to be good for your kid because you're not going to be a miserable fuck. And kids don't do well when their parents hate themselves because it just makes the kid hate themselves, okay? So the kid can grow up and learn that, oh, my dad's a little, or my mom, whatever, my parent is a little different. It's not that big of a deal, okay? It doesn't matter. It's silly.
hard times creating strong men. Chris replying, this is just more dog whistling that somehow trans and GNC folks aren't safe around children. Tucker,
bro, what is a GNC folk? GNC is a waste of money, bro. Just go buy an animal pack on bodybuilding.com.
begs for me to come back when I leave for like 2 days to film. He is so loved and happy. Kids aren't born with hate. It's taught by people like you, and my child will only know love. I know I'm going to be a great parent, and so is every other person who puts the love of their child before everything. I made this decision because I wanted to show up as my best and happiest self for him in a way. This
it's a good answer. It's a good answer. What's up, baby love?
It's never too late to start being yourself.
I'm itching my nose. I'm not picking it.
News saying YouTuber Mr. Beast collaborator Chris Tyson opens up about gender journey. HRT saved my life. And then it's another tweet. You all heard me call dibs, and has like something with Mr. Beast skateboard. I think it's from a live stream, which everyone started freaking out about because of how Chris presented themselves. So we're going to read a couple more tweets, but just to bring this up,
let's do it.
Chris talking about like their divorce and their child is something that's got a lot of conservatives very, very mad. And it never stops amazing me how the whole war against trans people is literally just like recycled tropes used against gay people for decades and decades, that Chris cannot be a good parent because they are transgender, right? And children need like a mother and father, or somehow having two parents who do not fit the Western gender binary.
I would say, generally speaking, like, yeah, a kid does need a mother and father, but like life isn't perfect. And I would say a kid needs a masculine and feminine figure. I think both a nice balance of masculinity and femininity are good for each other. They work well. I think a woman can be a masculine figure, although men tend to be, and I think a man can be a more feminine figure, although women tend to be more feminine. As long as they're strong masculine or feminine characters, I don't think that it matters. Or people. I don't mean characters like from a game like Among Us or anything, right? But you could also get that from other people. You get that from like a brother or an uncle or a teacher or I don't know, the U.S. Army or something. I don't fucking know. You know.
Means that this
I'm
child
gonna
is gonna be messed
come
up for life. It's absolutely ridiculous. There are so many arguments like this made, whether it's about like single mothers and absent fathers, whether it's like two gay parents as well. It's obviously absolutely ridiculous, and it's so funny to me always that the conservative culture war focuses on like saving children, and then two things are always true. Recently, most of these people turn out to be nonces in the first place, and then of course it goes hand in hand with they don't actually care about children.
No, they don't.
Because they do not support political policies that actually help children. Didn't Ben Shapiro?
Well, it's not even that. They don't advocate for political policies outside of transness. This is one of the problems. Like, listen, I'm not a big fan of the old transphobia, but if you're going to be transphobic, at least talk about other stuff too. You know, like, it doesn't make sense. All you talking about are trans people over and over again. Talk about something else. Talk about how this fucking tank's an idiot and doesn't know how to go through a dungeon that's been here for 15 years. You know, talk about poverty, talk about welfare, talk about, not in a way that just says, let's get rid of it. Like in a way where it's like, hey, we have some problems that we have to fix. Talk about healthcare, talk about something, but I'm not seeing conservative solutions to any of these other problems. It's not like they're like, I don't like universal healthcare. Here's a good way for us to solve this problem. It's just like, I don't like universal healthcare. So, I gotta kill this. So this current situation is fine. But then it gets funnier because you look at it and you realize that they'll say some dumb shit like, guys, there's this trans agenda that's out here just to make money. They'll constantly talk about how there's more money has been made in trans affirming treatment because we just started implementing it, but and it's like, okay, that issue wouldn't exist if we had a more universalized healthcare that had less of a financial incentive tied to it. And funny enough, if you actually believe that this is a real thing, where there's this deep conspiracy to make people transfer money in the medical system, then get rid of the financial incentive, or largely get rid of the financial incentive in the medical system then. But they don't want to do that because when it comes to people that have diabetes and can't get access to their medications, or people with cancer that can't get cancer treatment, they don't really care. But when it comes to a trans person trying to live their authentic self, all of a sudden that this is a problem, but the healthcare system isn't an issue to them unless trans people are happy. It's fucking bizarre. They don't care. So, like, you know, be transphobic if you want. You shouldn't be. But at least look at, like, your politician and be like, wait, why are you only talking about fucking 1% of the population? Like, instead of, like, what's something that would actually have an impact on me, you know, as a voter? It's something to think about.
Recently say he doesn't support feeding kids for free at school and stuff like that. They don't support any like healthcare policies that help children or mothers and stuff like that. I just thought I'd bring that up because in the videos you're going to see Matt Walsh and Ben Shapiro talk about this point a lot. On Chris's alt account, they write,
Overwatch, I got to rank bronze 1 on my tank. I was bronze 3, so.
Don't let people talk about how I abandoned my child. He is the only priority in my life. I have this love and support.
Just
that is
saying.
all I need. I'm doing this for them. If that confuses you, educate yourself. If that makes you mad, leave. Simple. And then another tweet. I'm genuinely so glad so many people are learning what HRT is and how it can and has helped so many people because of my tweets. I was super nervous to be public about this because I've always been so private when it comes to this, but seeing conversations started because of me is amazing. It makes everything so worth it. I'm so excited to have more conversations like this in the future with all of you.
Bro, I couldn't imagine being Chris and just getting constantly like made fun of for being like coming out as trans, because that's what's happening like the whole time. It's fucked up.
Honestly, Chris seems like a pretty good person, and I'm glad they're so brave to share this journey with everyone, because as we all know, and we're going to get into, Mr. Beast's audience aren't very supportive. And there's one thing I'm going to talk about a bit more extensively at the end, is that when I criticize Mr. Beast, the people who defend Mr. Beast are always some of the worst reactionary YouTubers, like maybe centrist dude bros, or more just like reactionary Keemstar types. And they're always criticizing me for criticizing.
Patrick Logue super chatted $1.99. Papa, can you check out the vid I sent you on Insta?
Maybe. I don't know what it is. Am I one of the centrist dudes, bros? Because I like to think I'm a little bit of a lefty. Well, I don't really care if I'm lefty or righty, but like, I don't know. Whatever. Let's keep going.
Mr. Beast based on his like.
Am I just a fence-sitting centrist?
A lot of these people are also like wild transphobes. I've seen loads of them say all trans women are men and stuff like that.
Well, here's the thing. There's one really good thing about transphobic people, and I just want to be clear. Just hear me out. Is that it leaves more feminine cock for me? You know what I mean? It leaves nice cute little female penis for me, bro. Because I'm all about it. I'm all about that. You really cannot beat it. You can beat them and eat them, though, if you know what I'm saying. And I said "em" as in them because I am trans affirming.
And they're the people defending Mr. Beast, because I think it's quite indicative of the audience you can cultivate if you don't actually take a proper stand on anything. And that is a criticism of Mr. Beast I'm saving for later. But moving on to Beastie himself, Sunny V2, I just learned about who this YouTuber was recently, made a video, which we're going to look at in a sec, which said, why Chris will soon be a nightmare for Mr. Beast. And Mr. Beast replies, yes, this is getting absurd. Chris isn't my nightmare, he's my friend and things are fine. All this transphobia is starting to piss me off. And another tweet earlier.
Just starting?
Mr. Beast were basically
what the fuck?
Chris and their HRT journey.
It is fun, though, because a lot of people on the internet have decided to shit on Sunny V2. And Sunny deserves it, because his videos are kind of shit. Listen, I understand that I make pretty fucking lazy content. I get it. But oh my God, the amount of times I look at a fucking Sunny video and I'm like, wow, like this is just such a stupid terminally online fucking take is fucking astounding. I think really pay attention to like how fucking poopy wiener some of his takes are. It's wild.
So obviously, I'm not going to criticize Mr. Beast for standing up for their trans friend. It's good Mr. Beast, with his massive platform, did stick up for their friend and continues to feature Chris in videos. So that is a very, very good thing. And I'm not going to say he's not a trans ally in some way, but also he does have a massive platform. And the only time he's addressed this is in tweet replies, right? So most people aren't going to even see that. He could come out and write on his main Twitter or even a video and say, guys, you know, trans rights are human rights. Chris is my friend. They are not going anywhere. If you don't like it, leave, right? He could say more.
They could. I don't think that he has to. If I don't get a heel, I'm going to shit into my diaper. I don't think that it would be nice, but I don't think that that's like a requirement, or I don't think that that necessarily like matters. I understand why you'd want to just stay out of politics. It's very toxic, especially nowadays. I could see why you'd want to stay out of it. You know, I get it. I totally understand it. I think Mr. Beast is a genuine person, you know? And as he gets older, maybe he will start doing that more. Ah, this idiot died. Stinky boy.
Could do more. He could do more in this instance. The only thing I hope this whole thing makes him realize is there's no point being gay anymore. There's no point, because conservatives will attack you no matter what. Saying he's part of the trans cult now, just for this tweet. These two tweets are everything Mr. Beast has said about trans rights, right? And conservatives still hate him for it. And Mr. Beast has been very careful about being some sort of political centrist because he wants to run for president one day. Don't worry, we're going to make a video about all of that too.
Does he? I thought he was just a content creator.
He's getting a load of backlash.
Hey, listen, who doesn't want to be president? Huh? You know what I mean?
Thought I'd show you two little
of the Mickey Mouse Club.
He goes through the whole drama and basically shows pretty much mostly tweets that are condemning Mr. Beast and saying pretty transphobic things. He acts like he's just like a news reporter trying to show both sides. Every time he shows a side that supports Chris and Mr. Beast, he puts in like little caveats about how this will be really damaging to Mr. Beast's brand. So
really damaging.
Chris
for
went from
Mr.
lighting
Beast's
campfires and raising a family
brand.
with his beautiful wife to now trying to be a wife with his man buns and long nail. There goes a father figure the kid won't ever be able to look up to. Hard times create strong men create good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times.
That's crazy. Weak men criticize trans people in the way that these people do. I don't know what to tell you. If you criticize somebody trying to live their valid, authentic self, you are a weak person. I don't know what to tell you. And you might be like, no, I'm not. You are. You're a loser. That's what I say. And nobody else matters but me. You're a fucking loser. You don't have to like love trans people. Listen, sometimes I look at people and I go, that person's a little weird. I'm getting older and I'm seeing a lot of people that look weird to me. But I also realize that who gives a fuck what I think? I just go, that's weird. And I move on with my day. I probably wouldn't be a great friend to somebody who, let's say somebody who's like super liberal that has pink hair or something. That might be weird to me. Or somebody who identifies non-binary. I do have a non-binary friend, my good friend, Ryan Beard. But like overall, I don't know. I'm old. I don't get it. And that's okay. But hey, God bless you. Live your authentic self. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have to understand everything. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't have to get all of it. I'm never going to understand it because I don't have an identity issue. I'm fucking Bing chilling. You know what I mean? I'm just chilling. So, I don't care how it would affect me, you know? It's just like fucking poo-poo.
Weak man times. And if we've learned anything from Hollywood in recent years, it's that adding over
This
the
is
top
the dumbest
LGBT
part.
characters for the sake of relatability rarely works as intended, and is
Fucking adding over the top LGBT characters.
often nothing more than a distraction from the premise of the movie or video. I think Jimmy is in an inescapable situation. If he kicks out Chris, cancelled. If he don't, his channel will die for real. An inescapable situation is a pretty good way of describing the drama, which is also why it deserves the harsh label of being a nightmare. Jimmy has no option but to publicly express acceptance of Chris's transition, as silence or even worse, disapproval would come with obvious severe repercussions.
So obviously the framing there is that Mr. Beast is only doing this because he doesn't want to be cancelled, right? He's only sticking by his friend. And like I said, I don't really believe Mr. Beast is like the best trans ally ever. I don't actually think he'll use his platform to significantly promote transgender rights. But as most people know, a lot of people's first experience of things like this often come from personal experience. And to Mr. Beast, he doesn't seem someone who has inherent bigotry. He just seems a bit like naive at best. His best friend is trans, and then he learns about transgender issues, and Mr. Beast accepts him, right? And then people have stories in their own lives where family members come out as gay or trans, and it can be hard for the family because they're either ignorant or naive and stuff like that, but then eventually they accept them. But even in that personal acceptance, because they love that person, doesn't necessarily mean they will then start being really great on trans rights. You see that so much with various different things. The Conservative Party...
No, but it's definitely humanizing when you have like a trans friend or family or something. You're like, oh, this is a good person, and I think that they're being real and authentic. So like, oh, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's something very like humanizing. You know, it's something that people don't have to. Once you have to start thinking about it because you have a trans family or friend, and you don't want to see them get like bullied, and they're like, this is just my friend trying to live their authentic self. I think it's a really powerful thing. So even if James Beastardly isn't super trans affirming, this is like a step towards it, because obviously like, oh, my friend is trans, like I like my friend, like it's not, you know, they don't have to be trans affirming. That sometimes that's just how it starts. Okay, for me, very relatable experience. You know, I looked at a lot of trans porn, and that made me very trans affirming, because I'm like, you know, if I'm jerking off to it, could it be that bad? It's just a person. They come just like me. I'm sorry. I gotta chill the fuck out. It's just a person. Okay.
Party in the UK, for example, first out trans MP was like in the Conservative Party, and there's lots of Conservatives accepting them, but as a party, they're absolutely horrendous on trans rights. There's totally scenarios where people accept transgender, gay people, all these things that might not fit in with their worldview because they personally like that person. So I firmly believe Mr. Beast just is a good friend to Chris and doesn't want to ostracize them no matter what he really thinks about the broader conversation on trans rights. And in that sense, I don't even think Mr. Beast thought this would be controversial when he said it. I don't think he thought he would get insane backlash, but Conservatives never miss a chance to take up a cultural crusade against anyone they don't like to really push this narrative about trans people. So, of course, the right-wing press took this and now are targeting Mr. Beast. Matt Walsh, Ben Shapiro, Stephen Crowder, basically every single person in conservative media have targeted Mr. Beast for 2 tweets, and having Chris still feature in videos after Chris helped create the MrBeast brand. So first of all, I want to play you some clips from Matt Walsh's video 4 days ago. MrBeast sells out to the trans cult.
It is a sells out, or really always misplaced. Because even the most family-friendly content, the most seemingly innocuous, as most of MrBeast's content appears to be, can subtly, or not so subtly, introduce concepts that will take your child down a very dark path.
Dark path.
In the case of MrBeast,
the dark side.
That path has been opened by his sidekick and co-star on his videos named Chris Tyson. And he appears in many of MrBeast's videos. It's very familiar to fans of the channel. And those fans, most of them kids again, have been watching over the last few months as Tyson has transformed himself from a married man with a child to something that is supposed to look like some sort of approximation of a woman.
So what I think is really interesting here is that the funny part about this is that, like, you can tell, because I've seen Matt Walsh talk, he's trying to say that this person, he's trying to be transphobic because he doesn't realize that Chris still identifies as a man in some capacity. He's trying to be transphobic, so he's overly using, like, pronouns he thinks is not affirming. But like, you're wrong. Like, the person seems to be non-binary in some capacity. So like, it's just funny how silly you sound as you try to be transphobic, because like you're trying to be, so you are intentionality wise, but like you technically not really saying anything that's actually invalidating. So it's just kind of funny, I think.
Fans had noticed for several weeks as Tyson underwent a sort of bizarre physical change, not only growing his hair out, but beginning to appear increasingly frail and sickly. Started wearing women's clothes and all the rest of it. MrBeast has been put in an extremely difficult situation because he built a multi-million-dollar empire with innocuous, family-friendly content targeted at kids. And now his friend and collaborator and sidekick has decided to turn these videos into a sort of visual journal of his gender transition. And now that he's gone down this road, there's really no coming back. You can expect much more pro-trans content from MrBeast going forward.
Doubtful, but okay.
Which means that if you're a parent and you allow your child to watch MrBeast videos, now is a very good time to stop allowing that.
So see how much the goalposts are now shifting in conservative circles,
That's wild.
Right? So apparently before it was about like not teaching kids about gender ideology or something because you don't want to confuse them, or maybe you don't want to sexualize them in a school setting, right? Where the government is involved. Now it's about actually, no, we just don't want to see trans people at all. And they start saying, well, this content is for kids. MrBeast content is not specifically for kids. There is a whole thing you can click on your videos.
Well, I think it is for kids, but I get what you're saying. It's not explicitly for you. Like, I know a lot of like older people will watch MrBeast because they just think that the videos are interesting and cool.
YouTube, if you want to make your content for kids, anyone can watch MrBeast videos. Although he does have a large child fan base, his content isn't specifically for children. It's not like it's running on like a children's television network or something. It's running on YouTube. And like I said, I don't think MrBeast is suddenly going to start making videos talking about paying for people's transitions. I don't actually think MrBeast...
That'd be kind of fucking based, though. I'm paying for 100 trans people's transitions. That'd be fucking wild. Do you think if MrBeast did that, do you think that like these fucking... Do you think that people would still find something to complain about with him, like progressives that like want to hate him for everything that he does? Like, they'll make the video that's like, MrBeast, this is ridiculous. He's just teaching people that you need capitalism or something. I don't know. Because I feel like the guy could fucking like provide gender affirming care to like 1,000 people. It's not enough. I don't know, dude. Because I feel bad for the kid. This is just a kid trying to make content and have some fun and shit. Dude, are you fucking kidding me, dude? Like, where the fuck are my heels, you big stinky penis? Jesus Christ. Fucking everybody's pissing me off today. I'm just saying, I feel like people love to complain about shit all the time.
He cares for trans people as a whole. I think more he cares for his friend. And these people think him just allowing Chris to continue being on a channel Chris has been on for like 5 years is MrBeast promoting some sort of transgender activism. Again,
trans agenda.
Don't want trans people in public society. This guy is in particular like a straight up fascist anyway. We all know that about Matt Walsh. He's pretty unapologetic about it. I made a video about him like 2 weeks ago. But the thing with these conservative culture wars, they just keep pushing the boundaries. They'll start small.
I know it's a random thought, but you know, like the first time I was introduced to like a trans person, like, or even the concept of like what a trans person was, this is going to be so bizarre. And I just, the only reason I want to say it is because I feel like maybe one person will be like, holy fuck, Papa Gut, that's relatable. I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, and it's such an obscure thought, but I remember a long time ago, this was really young, and I played this porn game called like HTH Studios or something. It was like a weird furry thing. I don't even know what I was thinking, but it was interesting. I'm not a furry, guys. Don't cancel me. And there was like a secret room that you could open, and you would see a poster on it that said, fucking chicks with dicks is the best of both worlds. And I know that's so weird. And that always really resonated with me. I just like always would. I would just sit in class sometimes, and I'd be like almost like I was fucking Socrates. Like, is that true? Is that true? Is it really the best of both worlds? And I would just like really sit there, and I would think on this. I would really think on this, and be like really profoundly, like shower thoughts. Holy fuck! I almost died. And, it's just an interesting thought that I had. And I probably shouldn't have expressed it because it's a very bizarre thought. But, it came into my head. So.
They'll start saying something and then they'll push it where, nah, just no transgender people on YouTube videos which anyone can watch. Newsflash from Matt Walsh, if your kid is watching Mr. Beast, he has full access to the whole of YouTube, the whole of the internet. He can go look up anything transgender. He can watch videos specifically about transgender activism and rights. I don't think most people seeing Chris is going to brainwash them in some sort of left-wing activism, but what these people are scared
No, but it's going to normalize trans people. Which is a good thing. It's if you are aware of this drama on YouTube and you see Mr. Beast defend his friend, it's going to normalize trans people. It's going to teach you that like if you look up the Mr. Beast, that like, oh, it's okay to have a trans friend and my friend is still a good person even if they're trans, which I think is a good thing. So yeah, this is a good message.
Of is that seeing visible people like Chris challenges the Western gender binary. Matt Walsh just doesn't want general people to see trans people as just human beings. They want everyone to see trans people as some sort of degenerates, people who are a threat to children, an identity that is inherently sexual. The people at the Daily Wire challenging the status quo and the gender binary is a threat to the whole conservative worldview. So now we're moving on to what Ben Shapiro thought about all of this. And just something I want to know about Matt Walsh as well. Conservatives love personal responsibility, but somehow think Mr. Beast choosing to stand by their friend has nothing to do with their own, personal desires. It's all about some sort of like being scared of cancelled or the woke mob and stuff. It's everyone in society making them act a certain way. These people talk about personal responsibility all the time, but here's another one kind of in a similar sort of theme, is that Ben Shapiro is basically saying that Chris is very, very selfish because they want to be transgender and that affects Mr. Beast and that puts Mr. Beast in a very hard place, as lots of these videos say. And Chris is also being selfish because he's ruining his own family and also he's ruining the dynamic on the Mr. Beast live streams and stuff. So let's have a look at some Ben Shapiro clips.
And people started pointing out, well, Chris, when you make life decisions, it actually has impact on other people. See, this is the magnificent narcissism of modern society, is that we decide.
Not really, not for nothing, but like this is one thing that I think fundamentally we should all understand. Being selfish isn't a bad thing. You need to be a degree of selfish or else you're going to get walked all over, right? Just fundamentally speaking. Like just think about this. Let's say you work somewhere and you have like a person that's there and they're a really nice person. And, every other weekend, they're like, hey, can you take my Saturday? Can you take my Saturday shift over and over again? And like, then you have, and you're like, oh, sure. I don't have anything to do. And then one day you have like a graduation to attend and they ask again. If you it's a little selfish saying, no, I have something going on. I have a graduation for somebody. But if you're too nice, you're going to end up missing out on something. Because of that, you have to be a little selfish. And so we're at a situation where if you want to even call it selfish, which I wouldn't given the scenario, but let's just say you want to call this selfish. Okay, if you decide not to transition, Chris is going to be unhappy and it's going to have a negative impact on their kid anyway. So if you think it's so negative, which it's not, it's just a thing that exists that they're trans. But like it's the bigger positive because they're going to be able to be happier and more active with their kid. Like, let me tell you something. I don't have a father. My father left my mother 5 months pregnant. Okay, I would have been better off with a fucking trans dad or whatever, mom or whatever, than I would like with nothing. It's not just about the masculine or feminine roles. It's just about not having the person love you that's supposed to love you. So, at least they're in their fucking kids' lives, which is more than you could say for most people. Maybe not most people, but you understand what I'm saying? Because people are like, oh, look, they're not there for their kid. How selfish, blah, blah, blah. But they're not criticizing the deadbeat dad. They don't give a shit. They're spending all their time on crying about trans issues, but they're not crying about like single parents, their fathers leaving their children. They're not complaining about that. It's mostly like, oh, trans bad. Like, it's more acceptable to be a shit, worthless, deadbeat dad in our society than it is to be a good fucking the bad father. Like,
super chatted $1.99.
I
rock with trans people. They are pretty cool.
Yeah, I feel you, brother. But it's more acceptable to be a shit deadbeat dad than it is to be a fucking happy trans person active in the lives of your loved ones. It's wild. It's just we have a really fucking backwards way of thinking here. It's crazy. It just is.
The personal life decisions that make us feel better in the cockles of our heart. These are the things that really matter in life, in our relationships with other people. Not, in Chris Tyson's case, the relationship that he has with his wife and his kid. He has a wife and he has a kid. Let me just express something to you right now. If you decide that your feelings of comfort and gender identity are more important than your relationship with your wife and your child, you are being selfish. This is true for...
But you don't have to... It's not one or the other, though, right? So, I don't know why their relationship ended. Maybe it did have something to do with Chris being trans, but that's a whole identity issue that Chris probably just didn't really realize until they got older. But we still don't know. But it has nothing to do with their life for their kid. And if we were more accepting of trans people, maybe Chris wouldn't have ended up marrying somebody. Like, let's say they did end because of that. They ended up ending because of a gender issue and whatever. Well, Chris wouldn't have been struggling as much if being trans is more acceptable. So...
For everyone, if you're a man and you decide that you're going to cheat on your wife because, listen, it makes you feel better about yourself. You're hitting your 40s, and now it's time for that midlife crisis. And
cheating is not the same as being trans, man. Like, silly goose.
I said, go get a younger model and take that for a ride. Well, that is you being a bad person. That is you being a narcissist. That is you ignoring the priorities of life.
Fuck me in my ass.
What are you going to sacrifice on behalf
Come in my
of the people
butt.
who mean the most to you? It is not about you feeling the best you can feel on the interior of you, especially because that's a really subjective feeling, and it turns out it's incredibly transitory. Not only is it transitory, when you're telling lies to yourself, it's incredibly damaging.
Transitory.
When you're telling yourself a lie, you're a member of the opposite sex. And meanwhile...
nobody's saying that, though. Like, we understand that it's not a sex thing, it's a gender thing. So nobody's actually saying that they're a member of the opposite sex. They're just like, hey, I'm a different gender. It's not that deep.
Completely destroying, presumably, your relationship with your wife. And also confusing your own child. That actually is a bad thing to do.
Fuck.
This should not be a controversial statement because, again, this is true for everyone. Gay, straight, gender non-conform, whatever you are, your top priority is providing for your child a level of stability and understandability to the world. And to your spouse, your highest commitment is to being the best husband or the best wife to your spouse that you can be. This does not involve you seeking yourself. You seeking yourself is a 1960s, 1970s garbage construct in which your own personal priorities take priority.
So I'll stop the video.
I mean, it's not really seeking yourself. It's more of like just something that's significantly stressful for somebody that's not living their authentic self. Right? Like, you should really try to attune yourself to understand that, like, Chris isn't seeking themselves. Chris is being the person that they're supposed to be. That's really what it comes down to. So, yeah.
Go there before we talk about some other clips. Basically, Ben Shapiro is saying Chris is being selfish and his priority should be to his family and not going on this journey of self-discovery, making it seem like very, very narcissistic. But Ben, wouldn't Chris be a better parent if they are more comfortable in their own skin and get to be who they are inside, right? So if they're more happy and more comfortable as themselves, I assume they'd also be a better parent, right? Or they could choose to be in the closet, become very, very miserable, and that could lead down a very, very dark path.
Well, I think that Ben has just found comfort being in the closet, so I think Ben is just projecting.
And could have very, very bad outcomes for Chris, and could also have bad outcomes on the child, because at the very least, if Chris is more miserable, you'd expect the environment for the child not to be as good. But if Chris is happy and fulfilled as the true version of themselves, you'd think that would also make them a better parent. So I wouldn't say coming out of the closet, gay or trans, is some sort of narcissistic thing. You should be in the closet for the sake of your child, because I'm pretty sure most loving children want their parents to be happy, especially if that will make them better parents. I don't really understand the logic here. And it's basically the assumption that if you come out as trans or gay to your child, then that will ruin their life or something.
Now, Mr. Beast is caught between a rock and a hard place because his friend, a person he has cast on the show and who is now making presumably millions of dollars because he's friends with Mr. Beast and was a cast member of the show, has decided to completely change his character. Now he's no longer just a dude living on the show. Now he is a man who pretends that he's a woman. By the way, this actually has real ramifications for the way that the show feels,
Not
the
really,
show looks.
But okay.
And there's a recent video from Mr. Beast in which this dude, Chris Tyson, who believes that he is a woman, they're interacting, making all the interactions that used to be kind of normal are now extremely, extremely awkward. Okay, but Mr. Beast is talking.
So I already know he's going to show the clip where it seems like things are awkward. The first thing is that like that was a really long live stream where all of them were opening up like 1,000 or 10,000 mystery boxes or something just ridiculous like that. And so it's possible that everybody was just burnt out or drained. Second of all, you could also just argue that maybe that is weird for them because their friend just transitioned and now they have to get used to it. You have, like, that's okay. If your friend comes out as trans and you're like, oh, I want to be your friend, I just need a little time because it's weird to you, that's okay. So it's not even a criticism. It's just like you're getting used to like a little bit of a new person almost. And lastly, you don't really know anything what you're talking about because you don't watch Mr. Beast. So you can't make the absolute claim that like everything's so fucking awkward now. You don't know that. You're just assuming that based on some people who probably don't even watch Mr. Beast have decided to prescribe the situation. So
in a rock and a hard place. Because if he says to Chris, listen, Chris, you're screwing up the dynamic of the show, right? We didn't bargain for this. You want to make your personal life decisions. You want to take some time. You want to figure out what you're all about. That's fine. But you don't get to enact your personal dramas on the set of my $1 billion show. You don't really get to do that.
It's just them. They're not doing anything dramatic. They're just being themselves. It's not really this whole deep thing. If Chris came on the platform and said, I want to talk about my transition, Mr. Beast might be like, hey, listen, like that's a little too far. That's fair, but like to sit here and be like, just the virtue of their existence means that like the platform is fundamentally changed is a silly goosery take.
Yeah.
All right, this guy's just pumping.
I gotta
what the
say,
fuck?
that is not kind to me as a friend. He's not allowed to do that. Our society says that he must actually sacrifice his business for the sake of his supposed friend who's willing to put him in this position in the first place.
Sure.
Because if he doesn't put this guy on the air and destroy the dynamic of a show, or at least harm the dynamic of a show, then that means that he's a transphobe.
Okay.
But if he leaves the guy on the air, it completely messes up the dynamic of the show, and fewer people are going to watch it. And you can see that in the number of dislikes that have been racking up on Mr. Beast's YouTube page. So Mr. Beast had to make the choice, and so the choice that he chose is, of course, the wokest choice.
So Ben Shapiro is a Mr. Beast video connoisseur, I guess, saying that Chris is ruining the dynamics of the show. And the reason people are disliking the videos with Chris in it now are because Chris is ruining the dynamic by transitioning. Not the fact that Mr. Beast has an audience with insane transphobes who hate seeing a visible trans person. And of course, then you probably also have right-wing trolls who now go on the video to leave hate for Chris because they also hate trans people. Doesn't that make more sense? And they're acting like Mr. Beast is just like, I can't do anything about this. I want to fire Chris because they're trans now, but I'm not going to because I'll get cancelled. I really, really don't believe that. I just believe Mr. Beast, for once, in my opinion, is being a good person and being a good friend. But on that note,
hey, common Mr. Beast W. That's what I think.
No one is talking about when we talk about Mr. Beast and we talk about, this backlash to Chris being trans on Mr. Beast's videos. And that is the audience Mr. Beast has cultivated. Some people have responded saying, when you have a really large audience, you're just going to have like some terrible people in it. But I kind of want to outline this, right? So Mr. Beast has built a channel on being moral, I guess. People see him as a moral person. Everyone always says when I criticize him, well, he's one of the rich people who gives back. He's one of the rich people who does charity work. He's so moral. He helps so many people out. But if you base your whole morality in some sort of like neoliberal capitalist version of morality, like the personal giving away of wealth, and you kind of frame that as the way to fix all issues while actually ignoring the actual issues, I think that creates an audience who want to be like you because Mr. Beast says...
Well, listen, I'm not a Mr. Beast connoisseur. I've never gotten the impression that Mr. Beast does his content in this way that's like, I'm fixing all issues by being an epic capitalist. I think it's more that they just like doing nice things. So like this prescription that Mr. Beast thinks that like, I don't think Mr. Beast is like saying that capitalism fixes all problems of capitalism. I think Mr. Beast is just being a cool dude. That's it.
He wants to inspire children. Children say they're inspired by Mr. Beast to do good. But Mr. Beast doesn't actually ever take a hard stance on things. When have you really heard, without pressure, Mr. Beast talking about actual issues? The only reason he started talking about the US healthcare system is because he had a massive backlash to that video about curing blindness. And it's one of the few times he actually spoke about maybe something political, really. And now when he says something about he's sick of transphobia, everyone hates him. Loads of people who attack me relentlessly for criticizing his videos, who seem like these big Mr. Beast simps, now they're attacking him because they hate trans people. And how does he cultivate this audience? It's because you make these big stupid videos and you don't take a moral stance on anything, so you just attract random weirdos who think giving away houses or giving away loads of money to homeless people, that's the height of morality. But standing up for something moral like transgender rights, that's beyond the pale. That's not what you should inspire kids to do. You should be inspiring them to, I don't know, cure blindness with millions of dollars that they don't have. And this is because Mr. Beast is too scared to take a firm stance on something. Let me give another example, right?
I mean, maybe Mr. Beast just doesn't want to take the stance. Maybe he's just apolitical. I don't think it needs to be this deep thing. Also, like, I think that there's a difference, because listen, I used to make like edgier content, right? And so I was always a guy who likes edgy jokes, and I would make edgy jokes, and I interpreted them as just a guy who likes edgy jokes. And then I eventually learned that there were a lot of people in my TikTok that used to just be fucking racist and sexist, and it took a long time to realize. And so if you wanted to say, hey, Papa, you kind of cultivated this audience, okay, that's fair, because I'm making edgy content. But Mr. Beast is just doing. He's just chilling. So like, he's not making edgy content. He's making like charitable content. And then people happen to be kind of bigoted. I don't even know if you could say it's most of them. I would say most people probably just don't give a shit, but I could be wrong. But I think that there's a difference between something like I did, where I made edgy jokes, which attracted edgy people, some of which were actually bigoted, versus just making content and some of the people who like it happen to be bigoted, but not because of the content you're making. I feel like there's a lot of like weird. Why do you hate Mr. Beast so much? This seems mean. I don't know. It seems like a meanie head. I just think you're being a mean guy, bro. I think you're being a silly goose, a little silly goose boy. I don't think you need to be that rude, bro. That's my boy James. James, if you're watching this, please let me be on this. No, just kidding. I don't really want to ever. But anyway, just being a mean guy.
The Beast has said multiple times he wants to be president one day. This guy seriously thinks he's going to be president one day. And I've said before in the past, it reminds me of Matthew McConaughey. Matthew McConaughey was mulling over running for the governor of Texas.
Okay.
And then I made a whole video on this. He'd done a lot of interviews and people would ask him questions. And for liberals answering about like trans rights and gay marriage and women's rights, it's not hard to give like a positive answer about defending them. But Matthew McConaughey couldn't do that because he positioned himself as this centrist. And as a centrist, you can't take a hard position on anything because you're going to alienate a section of your fans. So Mr. Beast has built his career as a centrist who actually won't take a firm stance on anything specific. Yes, vague things like saving the planet, stopping climate change, things that aren't very controversial when you frame them in such a vague way.
Well, I mean, climate control can be very controversial too for conservatives too. So, but okay.
It's not like in Mr. Beast's videos about cleaning up the ocean or planting trees, he started talking about how, you know, consumer capitalism, neoliberal capitalism is literally destroying the planet, because that would require him to take a firm stance on things. And then you're going to alienate certain members of your audience who are more conservative. So in a very cynical way, Mr. Beast doesn't do that. He doesn't stand for anything because he either is doing this all as a marketing gimmick, which I believe he is, or he's just trying to become as popular as possible. And in his weird...
Or maybe he's just a little bit less of a political guy. I mean, listen, I don't think it's uncommon for somebody to be like, oh, I want to be president of the United States, blah, 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 and just be a silly goose without understanding what that means. So, like, if he did ever actually run, unironically, and then he wasn't taking firm stances, that's a great thing to criticize him then. But I feel like him just kind of one-offing, I want to be president, I don't think that calls for us to call him a big smelly wiener, which is kind of what's happening here, but okay.
Like centrist, Elon Musk-inspired charity work, he's just drawing in a very
elongated muskrat.
But when he stands up for trans rights in like 2 tweets, let's not pretend he's going on his videos telling people to donate to trans charities or something like that, then the whole right-wing mob come after him, loads of his fans then start disliking him, saying it's the end of his career, it's the end of his content, because Mr. Beast, in all his morality, never actually stood for anything. He's never really done anything significant for like LGBT rights beyond lip service across the last 4 years, and he's never really taken a firm stance on any political issue.
You're saying that he sucked somebody's dick? Okay, that's good. I say, God bless lip service. Am I right?
Despite the fact he wants to run for president, he thinks you can solve the world's problems by getting corporate sponsors to pay for like a food bank or something like that.
Hey, if he can do it, God bless. He's a young guy. I'm sure he'll learn. You don't have to learn everything today, you know.
And that is the limits of centrism, is that when you actually take a stand for something because it personally affects you, it's Mr. Beast's own friend. It's not like he just came out and said trans rights. Then you alienate a certain segment of your audience, and it just proves the limits of these things. Like so many people telling me all the time, Mr. Beast is such a moral person. He's such a good person. What have you done? What have you done? Mr. Beast is amazing because he's given money to various things, and that just shows the limits. Because if you don't actually take a position on either side of an issue, then this is what happens. And the one thing I hope Mr. Beast learns is that this doesn't pay off, because Mr. Beast, you might as well say trans rights now.
I thought this was going to be more about how bad Matt Walsh and them were. This seems to be more about how bad Mr. Beast is, man. What the frick, Miro? I feel like... I get it, you don't like Mr. Beast, but I feel like going a little hard on the guy.
Now, you might as well make a whole video telling people to donate to trans charities, because they don't care. They see you as that anyway. They now see you as a communist, trans activist because you tweeted one thing. So why don't you stop sitting on the fence and actually take...
Or maybe like most people, because I do think that like I think that this whole culture war thing is being lost by conservatives. Or maybe people will look at that and go, hey, you know what? Mr. Beast is right. He's sticking by his friend. And it'll just be a slow process. People take a long time to change. You know, and at the end of the day, I find that like a lot of lefties and people on the far right or far left, they only really appeal to people on the far right or the far left. But what we really got to focus on is what about those people that are more in the middle? And sometimes they just need a little bit embracing, and like you can't push them and be like, trans people are valid, and then start fucking punching them with a bunch of information, which is true that they're valid. And sometimes you need to like take a little time and like, you know, little piece at a time. Like, hey, you know what, trans people, it's okay that they exist. Just because you have a trans friend, you can still be their friend. Oh, okay. And it starts little things, especially with young kids. The kids are fucking little assholes that are very they don't they're selfish pieces of shit. So a little piece here and there can be very positive. You know, just little bitties. You know? So.
Take a side now. Take the good side. Take the moral side. Stick up for your friend and stick up for people like
beat up your friend. Punch him to death.
Showing you, conservatives now see you just like us. They don't make
beat your friend up with a gun.
You paid some lip service to trans rights. So why don't you just play into that? And why don't you just take the side of good? Stop trying to be like some Elon Musk bro and sit on the fence to make yourself the biggest YouTuber ever. Maybe just use now your personal experience of one of your friends going through their trans journey, and maybe, I don't know, take a side on something. So overall, Mr. Beast, good for tweeting that, but that is my criticism of Mr. Beast. And of course, conservatives will weaponize anything. And Mr. Beast, I hope he just learns.
Where the fuck did the bomb go?
How centrist you portray yourself. It doesn't matter how uncontroversial you
Where's the fucking bomb?
They're waiting, conservatives, and they're gonna get you, even if you think you.
I don't have a
anything
bomb.
So
they didn't give me the bomb.
Video back.
Wait.
Also, the first video with COVID. Got 2 more coming out this week as well. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. And if you made it this far, thank you for watching.
Never mind. Okay. I mean, listen, interesting video, I guess. It felt like you were... I guess one of the problems I had is it feels like you were more aggressive against Mr. Beast than you were against the actual transphobic people. This comes off as a little silly to me. A little weird. I feel like we should reserve most of the criticism for the actual transphobes. I think Mr. Beast's a nice guy. Seems like a cool dude.